Gemini 3.1, the new model that has just dropped from Google. I've been playing around with it all this morning. That's why I'm a little bit late. It's a good model, but it has a distinct limitation, which kind of means it's not in the running, at least for me at the moment. So despite having a very smart model, it's missing something that will make me actually use it on a daily basis. This has been a continued problem for Google and Gemini. I was hoping they'd fix it with 3.1, but they have not done so. We will jump into that in just a moment. All of this on the live will be put on YouTube, edited, reformatted, made easier for you to get access to, and in the newsletter. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, you can join the newsletter for absolutely free. Click on join the community and you'll be able to get a bunch of courses, an AI readiness guide, 100 plus playbooks, access to a community, and a whole bunch more. That's all available for free at aiwithkyle.com. I need to remember to tell people, because every once in a while somebody will say, do you have a website? Yes, I forgot to tell people. aiwithkyle.com, please go there. I am Kyle. So let's have a jump in and look at Gemini 3.1. I've been using the Pro model, which is the top model. No, actually, there is an Ultra model. I do not have access to that, but I've been using the Pro, and it's good. So Gemini 3.1 Pro is here. We've significantly improved the model's overall intelligence so it can solve tougher problems. This is from the official account. The model is a step forward in reasoning, designed for workflows where a simple answer isn't enough. On Arc AGI 2, which tests for novel logic patterns, it more than doubles 3 Pro's score. So it's a big jump from Gemini 3 Pro to Gemini 3.1 Pro. Over the last couple of weeks, we have seen lots of point updates. We've seen GPT 5.2 get upgraded to GPT 5.3, and it's a big jump. We've seen Opus 4.5 and Sonnet 4.5 upgraded to 4.6, and again, big jumps. So interestingly, we didn't see the jump to GPT 6, we didn't see the jump to Opus and Sonnet 5, and we haven't seen a jump of Google to either 3.5 or to 4. So they're still considering these marginal smaller releases, but each of these releases has been pretty transformative. Even if they're not calling it a major release, they're all massive improvements. And it's the same here with Google Gemini as well. So here is the Arc AGI 2. This is one of the benchmarks. Again, we need to be wary with benchmarks, but this is the one we've been using for the last year or so as a yardstick as we move towards AGI. Again, that is a moving target. We all disagree about what that definition is, but Arc AGI 2 at least has been the benchmark that we've been using over the last year or so to test the different models. And unsurprisingly, Gemini 3.1 comes out much higher than all of the others. So Opus 4.6, Thinking Max, is getting a 68.8%. And apparently Gemini 3.1 Pro is getting a 77.1. We always need to be wary when people publish these graphs, because they're not going to publish their results on a particular benchmark unless it beats everyone else. So they're only going to publish it when they get a result that works in their favor. This is part of the marketing. I'm not blaming them for this. This is part of the game. At least in this case, Arc AGI 2 is a third-party benchmark. It is not Google's benchmark. Some of them, OpenAI, are very guilty of this, will create their own benchmark and then put out a chart which shows how good they are at their own benchmark and how terrible everyone else is. But at least Arc AGI 2 is independent. So, as we can expect, every time there's a new model, we've jumped ahead. We can't put too much into these benchmarks though, because as we know, it's our actual usage of it that matters. So it's out now in the Gemini app and exclusively to Gemini AI Pro and Ultra users in Notebook LM. I did not know that. I did not test it over in Notebook. So I am a Pro user, not an Ultra user, but a Pro user. So I should have it in here. I assume it's just in here by default. I don't think I can select the model in Notebook LM. So it should just be the new model that is working inside Notebook LM. Notebook LM already amazing. Putting a better model in it will probably make it even better. So I will play around with that later. I have not as of yet. So that's exciting. There's also in preview in the API, and then obviously the API release will be here very shortly. So it'll be in anti-gravity. I assume it's in Cursor. So it's a big rollout. It is going absolutely everywhere. So the question though is actual usage. So yesterday I looked at Ethan Mollick's new guide, which AI should you actually be using in 2026. That is at One Useful Thing. And I also put a lot of coverage of that in my newsletter today. So a guide to which AI to use in the agentic era. Ethan pointed out something that is very important. The model doesn't matter that much. All of the models are pretty good. So you could be using GPT 5.2, Opus 4.6, Gemini 3 or 3.1 Pro. They're all equivalent now. They're all very good. The delta, the difference between each of these models is increasingly not that important. What is more important is the harness that is put in. What are we attaching to this model to allow us to do real work? So the problem with Gemini, especially in this interface here, is it's still just a chatbot. I gave it a task that I always give to AIs, which is, hey, I create content, I do a daily live. That daily live gets chunked up into a newsletter and I want to create social media streams from it, etc., etc., etc. So I always give this task to an AI to say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Can you help me refine and work out this workflow? How can I better produce content? How can I integrate artificial intelligence into this? I gave it some basic details here, mainly to see how Gemini 3.1 Pro would go off and find information about me. And it did not. I said, this is my website, these are my socials, can you help me put together a plan? It's cool. Having a daily live stream is a massive advantage. And then it's, okay, you can do a waterfall content strategy. And it went on and it gave me this big detailed plan. But as you read through it, it's very obvious that it hasn't actually looked at any of my content. It hasn't gone and accessed any social media. It hasn't looked at titles, video titles on YouTube. It hasn't gone to the website. It hasn't done anything. It hasn't completed any agentic actions to go and find that information and to enrich its research. So instead, it's just given me something generic. The generic answer is perfectly fine, but we've moved on. We don't use AI like this anymore, or we can do a lot better. So I've just said, yeah, but go and look at my content. And it says, fair enough, this is completely my bad. I gave you a generic starter advice about looking under the hood. I just took a look. You're the Kyle Barmer. You already have a massive content. And then it goes on, and it's still giving me relatively generic advice. So the problem here is not the model's fine, and I've been using it all morning, and it's a good model. The problem is the harness that we're connecting it to. So the harness here is chat. It's inside of a chat bot, whether you're using it on your telephone, whether you're using it on the browser. I'm still in a chat interface, so it has relatively limited tooling to go and connect to other things. That has been fine for the last year or so, but increasingly we get work done by connecting our AIs to tools. So in the case of Claude, we have Claude Code and Claude Cowork. So increasingly we'll do our work through those, and because they can access our files, they can access web pages, they can get information, they can pull things together, they can plan, they can carry out a plan step by step, and they can do all the work for us. In ChatGPT, we have Codex 5.3, and Codex, the app on the Mac, is a harness that will go and do that work for us. Gemini has anti-gravity to go and do this, but they've fallen behind in this part of the ecosystem. So there are three layers here. There is the actual model, GPT 5.3, Claude Opus 4.6, and now Gemini 3.1 Pro. These are the models. They're all very good. That is no longer the differentiating factor. Above that, we have the apps, the interface. So in ChatGPT's case, we have an app that has a lot of messy, weird stuff on it, like shopping, the app store, but then it has the learning mode, which is quite useful. It has a image generation mode, which is not very good. With Claude, we have very little in the app. We have a research mode. That's about it. They're very focused. And with Gemini, we have the ability to make images using Nano Banana Pro, which is best in class. We have Veo to make video. We have Lyrica, I think it's called, a new music generator, etc. So Gemini is a very good multimedia app. But this is the new thing, harnesses. This is what is increasingly important, and Google are, as of yet, behind here. So we have Claude Code for Anthropic, and we have Codex for OpenAI. We also have OpenClaw. You can connect to OpenClaw as well. This is where Google don't really have an offering. They have anti-gravity, which is fine, but I don't see any reason why I use anti-gravity instead of Claude Code or Codex. Because of this, I think this release is muted. This is Vrasa saying, hey Google, this is getting silly. Gemini 3 might be smart, but without tool use, it's useless to me. It can't even create a damn doc file. This is where the battleground is going to be, is not the smartness of the brain, but what it is connected to, how it connects to the rest of your ecosystem, how it is able to do the work for you. That's a shift we're seeing in 2026. until they have all of that, I don't see myself using Gemini 3 on a daily basis. I will stick to using Claude Code and Codex because it can do work for me, not just talk about the work. Subtle shift, but important moving forward. Congratulations, Google, on a great model. But until those are in play, I don't see it being used in my daily life as of yet. Tell me if you have an alternative opinion. Tell me if you think it's fantastic and you are using it on a daily basis. I'd love to hear about that. Alain from Canada says, it seems to me they've only released this to match the competition but not overachieve, which is what others tend to be doing time and time again. Yeah, there's this meme, which I think is very right, about you are here. There it is. The hype cycle, basically. We rotate between them. So right now we're here with Gemini, and then we might go to Grok. For some reason, this one doesn't have Anthropic, which is definitely incorrect. Well, this is from 9 months ago. We need one that has Claude in it. But basically, we go in this cycle, and every couple of weeks, we have a new model. So right now, we might be here with Gemini, then we're going to rotate a rumor. The DeepSeek is about to release again. So DeepSeek will be back in this cycle, but it is basically a treadmill of one-upping each other, which is fantastic for us as users because we're getting better and better models. But increasingly, they don't feel like necessarily huge leaps and bounds, trying to make sure you have the best model. But fantastic competition helps us. Unless they release a harness which allows us to get work done instead of just chatting to Gemini, they will fall behind because people are waking up to the power of co-work, Claude Code and Codex, and realizing there's a better way to use artificial intelligence. It's not just chatting, it's having AI do stuff for you. Agentic AI was a buzzword back in 2025. Very few of the AI agents we saw were actually agentic. They were mainly automations. Quite a lot of them were deterministic automations, like things in NA to N and Zapier that were being called agents. They were not. They were just workflows. They were automations. But because marketing got on board and slapped the name agent on everything, now most people have been inundated with the word agent. So now that we finally actually have agents that work for us, agentic AI that is actually good, it's been watered down, it's been diluted, thanks to the marketing department. Unfortunately, I'm going to have a look at another one from Google. Google have been very busy. Google have released a new feature in Pomelli. So you might not even heard of Pomelli. It's in Google Labs. Pomelli is an image generation software for production. They've added a feature update called Photoshoot. With Photoshoot, you can start from a single image of your product and create high quality customized product shots free of charge in the US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Get started with Pomelli today at Labs. This is in Labs at the moment, so you need to get access. I don't have my VPN on, so I won't be able to do it. I'm not going to turn my VPN on during the live because that will demolish it. But you can sign up or you can go and use it on Labs now if you're in one of those countries or if you have a VPN. So the big thing about this is how many startups they just wiped out. So I think this is emblematic. Being a company in 2026 is basically waking up every day and praying that one of the large LLM providers don't just one-shot you with a single product launch. So you've probably seen a whole bunch of ads and startups for companies that do this, that allow you to do product shots, that allow you to create images of your t-shirts or of your makeup or whatever it is that you can use in e-commerce, you can use on TikTok Shop, you can use basically to sell online. There are many startups who have basically built a wrapper around Nano Banana Pro, set up system instructions that meant that you could get consistent product shots. So Google have just come along and said, okay, yeah, cool, good idea, done, and made it available for free and basically destroyed any startups in that space. That said, most people don't know what they can do with AI. So if you have a marketing department and you go out there and you market a particular solution to the general public, let's say it is this product shots, you go out and you market and you build a following, you have people interested on TikTok, on Instagram, etc. You are still much better able to drive traffic into your business than some random Google product. Google has a lot of products and they just basically release stuff, see what works. If it doesn't work, they kill it. If it does work, they will keep it running, maybe consolidate it into something else. They are not going for these markets in particular. They just want more people on their platforms. They want more people inside of their ecosystem, but they're not necessarily trying to build startups out of this. They're just trying to flesh out their ecosystem and get more people, more data into that ecosystem, which means you can still run a company in one of these particular niches because not everybody's going to know about Google's product offering. They're certainly not going to know about Pomelli, and they probably won't know it has photo shoot inside. So I get this, but this sentiment here that a lab can just one-shot your company. But remember that your company is not just the product. Your company is the distribution. It's your brand. It's your existing customer base. It is the ease that you give people as well. Let's say you've built a nice app that people can do it on their telephone. I don't think Pomelli is available on the phone, but let's say you've got a version that is. Again, you have made your product more accessible than a lab. So there's plenty of space around these things. I get this idea that a large lab can come and take your business immediately. In reality, though, you can continue, you can innovate, because most people are not paying attention to what the big labs are doing. It's only people who are building who realize what is going on. Even if we would go directly to Pomelli to do photo shots, doesn't mean the rest of the market does. You are probably a more sophisticated user of artificial intelligence. Which AI is the best for creating courses? For the content itself, probably Claude. If you're trying to create images, Nano Banana Pro, hands down, especially because you can add text into Nano Banana Pro images. If you're trying to make video content, I would highly recommend recording it yourself, just because I don't particularly like AI avatars. I'm not a big AI video fan personally. I think when people buy a course, they want access to you and your expertise. They don't just want to be talked at by an AI. Because increasingly, courses in education is not just about the information. The information is free. That's why I give away on my website all my courses. The actual course content is free. There's a huge amount of content here. This is a 10-week course on starting a business with AI. This is how to start giving workshops to businesses, teaching them AI and get paid well. This one here, this is 123 lessons, massive amount of stuff. It's got videos and loads of content. That's because information itself is increasingly free. Just giving people information is not enough anymore. What you need to do is guide people through that information and make sure they act on that information. So that's why I don't sell courses personally. I give away courses, and then I do sell cohorts. So with a cohort or an accelerator, you are getting people on board and you are putting them into a curriculum and making sure they get the work done. That is increasingly more important rather than information itself, because there is so much information out there and we can talk to an AI about that information using something like NotebookLM to self-educate ourselves. But that still doesn't mean that people will act on it. So if you can help people act, that is the way to go. And with AI, what we can do is we can build, let's see if I'm logged in. I'm not logged in. Let me log in. I've been building slightly different things. I don't know what my password is. Have I not got it here? You can see that code, but I don't think it matters. There we go. I'm going to log into one of mine. What I've been doing, oh, sorry, that's a version that you're not meant to see. That's fine. I was messing around with some things. What I've been doing is building courses. I was messing around in the background and trying out different shifts. Courses that are more interactive. So yes, you have some content. So you have a video like this. You have text, but then you have the ability to immediately act on that information. In this case, this is an AI tool, giving people an AI tool that they can actually use to work things out based on that content, or giving them an AI bot that they can talk to about the topic, or an AI that tests them. So you're able to build your teacher into the course content itself, retake assessment. So this is one example. This module 4 has a 22 question assessment, which you can fill out, and it uses this plus artificial intelligence to come up with a specific report. There's too many questions to fill out. A specific report which is connected to all of the information that is in the course material itself. So I would look at doing stuff like that if I were you. You create the course content, you shoot the videos, you do all of the normal learning stuff, but then you connect it with AI to help people move through the content, and then you layer on human supervision. So that could be an accelerator, so you get everyone going through it at the same time. Maybe it's a week, maybe it's 3 weeks, whatever. Or you do a cohort where you get everyone moving through over a couple of months. That, I think, is the future of courses and education. Jacob says, I'm looking to educate parents about their rights for education. Definitely start with Claude. Claude is really good. I'd go to Claude and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to put together an educational resource which is educating parents about their rights for education. I'd explain that to Claude and say, I want to put together a course. These are the kind of learning outcomes I'm hoping they will have. Can you interview me about this? So you get your AI to ask you questions. And the AI is going to use that to start to put together material for you. Obviously, the AI can write the material for you, but because you're the expert here, you need to guide that process. Whether that means getting the AI to interview you for a long time until it gets your tone of voice and understands what you're trying to say, or getting it to write drafts, edit, and go from there, or just getting it to give you the basic ideas and then you handwrite it yourself. But it still needs to have a bit of you inside. And Claude can also give you video scripts, and it can help you work out any interactive elements. So you can say, look, I want, for each module, I want a text element, I want a video element, I want a quiz, and I want some kind of exercise they have to do to prove that they have internalized this knowledge. And Claude will help you with all of that. So I would go for Claude out of all of them because it's the most sycophantic. ChatGPT will tell you that everything's a great idea. So you will say, I'm putting together this course. What do you think? Or how do you think I should do it? And it would be like, oh, you've got it exactly. Claude will push back and will say, actually, maybe we should do it in this way. Or have you thought about doing it in this particular way? Which I personally prefer. And its written outputs are much better than ChatGPT, unfortunately. If you were to attempt to simulate an OpenClaw-like agent interaction, what would you use to build it so it's safe to use and purpose-built? So you can build your own OpenClaw. So OpenClaw is open. So you can go and grab the code and you can fork it and you can make your own version. Lots of people have. So in terms of the safety, there's a couple of layers of safety. First is your device, what you're running on it. Main thing is you do not run it on your primary device. You do not give it access to the files and the shell of your primary device. So that's why people have been buying Mac minis. That's overkill. You can do it on a Raspberry Pi, or you can just do it on an old laptop. Or what I personally do is I have a VPS. So I spend $5 or $10 a month on a VPS, which is a virtual private server. So that's one layer. The second layer is about what you connect it to. So regardless of whether it's OpenClaw, regardless of what it is, as soon as you create a connection to anything, you're creating vulnerabilities. So you connect it to your email, that's a vulnerability via the email. You connect it to a large language model, that's another vulnerability. So there's the vulnerabilities that come through these third-party connections, but also in the actual connection itself. That's why you need to have security hardening so that data can't be sniffed moving between your whatever you're building, OpenClaw, and these other services. Then there is the layer of prompt injection. So you want to use a large language model that is more secure against prompt injection. Claude is the best at that at the moment. There may be some other open source models that are particularly hardened, but in general, it's going to be Claude. So when you're thinking about security, you have to hit all of these different levels. So if you are trying to build an OpenClaw-like agent, but it's safe to use and purpose-built, it's going to be around those levels of security. One, you isolate it on a system. If you really want it to be secure, don't connect it to the internet. That's going to be the safest way. Two, you limit what it's connected to. If it's not connected to the internet, that's very easy. You can also have local version. You can have local software on the computer. Three, if you use a local large language model, so you use LM Studio, for example, set up a local large language model and run it on that device, that's going to be more secure. But every time you make it more secure, you are losing functionality. You're losing ease. One of the great things about OpenClaw is the ability to connect it to everything and to have it run your life. So there's always going to be that push and pull between, I want it to do lots of cool stuff for me, but the more I connect it to, the more vulnerabilities I'm opening up. That's going to be exactly the same, even if you build your own version of OpenClaw. So it's not, the insecurities don't come from OpenClaw itself. There are some, but they're being patched very quickly. The insecurities come from the device that it's on, the tools it's connected to, and the connection points between those tools themselves. And that's going to be exactly the same, even if you build your own gateway, even if you build your own harness. So there are things like Cowork, which comes from Claude, which is fantastic. You can download it onto your desktop. It's got Windows now, fantastic. So Mac OS or Windows. That runs in its own virtual machine, so it's a bit more secure, and they have been a lot more selective in what it can connect to. It has plugins, but you can't just connect it to absolutely everything, which is one of the cool things about OpenClaw, but also one of the massive risks. With any of these things, it's going to be a trade-off between how much power do you want, but how much risk you're willing to take to have that power. What are the vulnerabilities with OpenClaw? There's an awful lot of them. Elaine says, I do feel Google are best positioned to provide the most comprehensive suite of AI tools for specific use cases. This is different than the rest. I've talked about this a lot before. I think Google are in the best position to win artificial intelligence. because they have the whole vertical stack. So a company like OpenAI, yes, they have a model, but they have to buy GPUs from NVIDIA, really expensive. They need to rent server space. So they have a bunch from Microsoft, Azure, but they're also cutting deals with Oracle, which is about cloud computing. So they're very vulnerable. They have the large language model, but that's kind of it. They have the application layer, which is ChatGPT. They have a big user base, about 900 million people. Whereas Google have the hardware level. They build their own TPUs. I was at Google a couple of weeks ago in London. I got to actually physically see a TPU, and I was far too excited about it. So they build tensor processing units, which are an alternative to GPUs, graphical processing units, which NVIDIA builds, which means they are not beholden to NVIDIA's basic monopoly. There's some other people, but it's basically NVIDIA, because Google build their own hardware. So boom, they've got the hardware layer. They then have their own cloud layer, Google Cloud. So they're not reliant on AWS, Amazon. They're not reliant on Microsoft Azure. They're not reliant on Oracle having to rent space anywhere. They have the application layer, huge reach. They have the models. They have Gemini. They have application layer, which is massive. They have the Gemini app. That's one thing. That is growing in popularity, but still behind ChatGPT. But they have Chrome. Chrome has 70-80% market penetration for browsers. They also have Android, which again is about 70-80% market penetration on telephones. They are also, Gemini is going inside of Siri, so it's going to be inside iPhones. So now Gemini is the de facto artificial intelligence being built into every single telephone on the planet, Android and iOS. Pretty important. Above the application layer, they have users, many users, and they've been collecting our data for an awfully long time. So they have data in terms of Google, which is basically indexed the world's written information. They have YouTube, which is the world's video information. They have things like Google Images. So they have been tagging and sorting images for the last couple of decades, which is really useful when you need to train an artificial intelligence that can generate images, funnily enough, which is why Nano Banana Pro is so good. They have a lot of money. I think last year they hit 400 billion revenue. Google revenue 2025. Let's look it up. It's 400 billion. So 402.8 billion, which is 15% increase year over year. So when you have cash, you can afford to go a little bit slower than everyone else. ChatGPT or OpenAI have to keep going back and asking for money. Anthropic just raised another 30 billion. They need to keep asking investors for money to pay for the data centers, to buy more GPUs. So Google have cash. They have cash from their search industry. They are in a really good position. They own the whole vertical. TPUs, cloud, large language models, foundational models, Gemini. They own the application layer, Chrome and Android. They have user base and money. They are in an extremely good position right now to take all of this. So don't bet against Google. They were caught on the back foot by ChatGPT, by OpenAI, by ChatGPT, because they already had internally in Google, they were using large language models already, but they did not think they were ready for public release at this time. This is from me talking to people at Google. They were using them already, didn't think they were quite ready to go public with them. Then OpenAI was like, ta-da, here's ChatGPT, which caught Google flat-footed. They've spent the last couple of years catching up, but they are in an extremely good position right now. Even though I was dumping a little bit on Gemini 3.1 because of its lack of harnesses, it's a very good model. They have all of the rest of this going for them. So I'm very bullish on Google. Would you invest in Alphabet now? I can't give investment advice. I'm bullish on Google. No, I can't be giving investment advice. I think my audience is 250,000 now, so it starts getting a bit worrying talking up a certain company. Not that Google is an unknown company, but if I was to talk up an unknown company and push for investment on it, yeah, it gets a bit heavy. Okay, let's flip from Google to Anthropic. So Anthropic, I put out a video yesterday that a lot of people didn't like. I think for good reason, I misrepresented them a bit. So I was saying at the beginning of the video, Anthropic is having a really rough year, which I think is true. So Anthropic, they're being investigated by the Pentagon, or not even investigated. The Pentagon is potentially calling them a supply chain risk because they got into a disagreement because Anthropic weren't very happy about Claude models being used in relationship to the coup, the kidnapping, I'm not sure what we're calling it, in Venezuela. Anthropic, that's not really what we signed up for. The Pentagon or the Department of War is now threatening to call Anthropic, the company, a supply chain risk. That is normally only levied out on companies who are foreign enemies, a Russian company, maybe a Chinese company. For it to be threatened against Anthropic, not great, bad news. To be clear, I'm on Anthropic's side, standing up to the Department of War. Great, fantastic, standing up for your morals. What I'm saying, though, is that Anthropic are having a rough 2026 because they had the whole OpenClaw. Yeah, it's a PR misstep. ClaudeBot came out. ClaudeBot was extremely popular. It's the fastest growing open source piece of software in history, like faster than Linux, really fast. It's extremely popular. Made pretty much by one guy, Peter Steinberger, and his collaborators, but he's doing most of the work. If you look at his commits every day, it is madness. So he's been putting in the work. So that went viral. It was called ClaudeBot, which sounds an awful lot like Claude. His was spelled C-L-A-W-D. Theirs is spelled C-L-A-U-D, but it sounds the same. It sounds identical. I spent a whole week changing my subtitles. Every time I auto-generated subtitles, it thought I was saying Claude, C-L-A-U-D. So Anthropic legal department sent him a cease and desist saying, absolutely not, you've got to change the name. They had every right to do. You have to protect your intellectual property. And if you don't protect your intellectual property, it dilutes. And then when somebody infringes it later on purpose, then there's been a precedent of you not protecting and defending your IP, and that can dilute your trademarks and dilute your intellectual property. So they had to do it. However, it was a bit of a PR disaster because the lawyers sent a cease and desist, really upset Peter, and Peter was quite visibly upset on Twitter. He changed the name to Moltbot, M-O-L-T, basically in a panic. I think he did it at about 5 a.m. When he changed the name, announcing he was changing the name before he'd secured the domains. So somebody grabbed the domain, launched a crypto scam. So this poor Peter, he was getting hit by legal threats, had a crypto scam in his name. He's got the fastest growing open source piece of software in recorded history, with everybody screaming at him to add this and fix this and do this. One dude sitting in Austria. So he had a hell of a week. A couple of days later, he changed it to OpenClaw because the name Moltbot was terrible and everyone agreed it was terrible. A week or so after that, he got hired by OpenAI, by ChatGPT. So all of this, Anthropic come out looking like the kind of corporate bad guys here. They had to protect their IP, they had to protect their trademark, but from a PR point of view, it didn't look great. At the same time, what they were doing, they were blocking access. If you're using your Claude subscription, if you're using it in OpenClaw, they would shut down your account. They are pushing hard on that now. They've started to do this with Open Code as well. So a lot of people were like, screw you, I'm going to use Open Code. I'm going to use Claude through Open Code. And now Anthropic have also come down on Open Code. So they are throwing their weight around, stopping third parties from accessing, stopping us from using our Claude subscriptions, which we might pay $200 a month for in third-party applications. Again, totally within their rights. This is in their terms of services, but it comes across as them being this multi-billion-dollar company stomping on individuals like Peter Steinberger, stomping on kind of darlings of the AI engineering scene like Open Code, because they don't want people to play with their toys. So it comes across poorly. Again, legally, 100% agree with what they're doing. They have every right to do so. They're not looking great as a result of this. The most recent development of this is this Open Code. Anthropic genuinely disgusts me. Who is this guy? I'm not sure who he is. Sorry, Robin. They sent a legal notice to Open Code, making official what many have feared. External tools are now explicitly prohibited from using or even orchestrating Claude Code. No more Open Code, no more Conductor, no more OpenClaw, no more similar tools. This is the exact opposite for OpenAI, GitHub, and GitLab, which all explicitly allow you to use your subscriptions in other tools, so you can choose freely what fits your workflow best. Anthropic are the only one throwing a tantrum. Vote with your wallets, people. Legally, 100% Anthropic can do this, but it is rubbing people the wrong way. It is pissing them off. The video that I did yesterday, Anthropic is having a really bad year. 2026 has been rough for them. They've got really great models. I think they're a really interesting company. From a point of view of PR and their public image, they've managed to burn an awful lot of goodwill. This is because of them stomping on developers, stomping on indie developers. It looks like this billion-dollar juggernaut bullying and throwing around their weight. Legally, they can do it. From a marketing and PR point of view, it's problematic because a lot of their customers, people who are spending $200 a month or more on the API, are coders, are programmers. And now we're seeing this push where people are saying, screw you guys, and we're going off to ChatGPT because they have a good model now, Codex 5.3. We've been relying on Claude Code for the last couple of years, but if you're going to behave like this, if you're going to cut us off, if you're going to bully, if you're going to stomp on open source creators, then we're just going to go and take our money elsewhere. So they've burnt a lot of goodwill, which is a shame because Anthropic were the goodies. They were always the good guys in artificial intelligence, but now we're seeing a lot of corporate dick swinging. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if people actually cancel their subscriptions, but it's a shame to see them burn so much goodwill in such a short amount of time. Lyra says, oh, Anthropic, come on. I was all in for them, was looking to move API from OpenAI, but now it looks the same as OpenAI, another crappy corporation. Yeah, they are. They're a corporation, which we knew. It's just now that is, oh, they're billionaires. Oh, they're shitty. I think it's that realization that, oh, they're just as bad as everyone else is a little bit disappointing because they were always the one who at least put themselves forward. And I don't believe it's cynical, but they were always the one who were worried about safety, regulations, the ethics. I think that was understood as, oh, maybe they're doing this for the right reasons and they're going to be helping the little guys and they're going to be helping other people use AI more democratically. But it looks like instead they are just another multi-billion dollar corporation. They're also heading towards the IPO, so that's going to have considerations there. And they want to protect their brand. I fully get it. I understand why they're doing it. I just think it's going to come across very poorly. I'm just going to block you, Caleb. I'm paying $5,000 to the first 5 people to message me. I don't think you're going to. I think that might be a lie, Caleb. Okay, last thing I wanted to talk about. My favorite. You know that whenever Andrej Karpathy says something, I'm going to cover it. Andrej Karpathy is one of the co-creators of ChatGPT. He's a really good educator of artificial intelligence. He has a couple of videos on YouTube. They're a couple of hours long each. If you get through those videos, you will know more about large language models than 95%, 99% of the people out there. I recommend blocking out some time. So Andrej Karpathy tweets a lot, and this is one of his longer tweets, but it's worth looking at. He said, very interested in what the coming era of highly bespoke software might look like. Example from this morning, I've been loosey-goosey with my cardio recently, so I decided to do more SRS, regimented experiment to lower my resting heart rate from 50 to 45. Oh, it's like me. My resting heart rate is about 50, which I'm a bit worried about. Over experiment duration of 8 weeks. The primary way to do this is to aspire to a certain sum total minute goals in zone 2 cardio and 1 hit a week. Okay, so he's being a nerd about his fitness basically. And he built this application which measures his resting heart rate over time. So he's built this for himself basically. 1 hour later, I vibe coded this super custom dashboard for this very specific experiment to show me how I'm tracking. Claude had to reverse engineer the Woodway treadmill cloud API to pull raw data. So he's got a treadmill, it's got some kind of API. Most of the time, these fitness companies, their software's a bit crap. I don't know about Woodway, but maybe Woodway is a bit crap too. But he's managed to connect it up and pull the information from his treadmill. So he's pulling raw data, process, filter and debug it, and creating a web UI front end to track the experiment. It wasn't a fully smooth experience, and I had to notice and ask to fix bugs. It screwed up metrics, metric versus imperial system units. It screwed up on the calendar matching up days to dates. So those are small bugs. If you can get the basic core working and the data flowing, then dealing with metric versus imperial and matching up dates, date formats, relatively minor. But I still feel like the overall direction is clear. There will never be and shouldn't be a specific app on the App Store for this kind of thing. I shouldn't have to look for, download and use some kind of cardio experiment tracker when this thing is around 300 lines of code that an LLM agent can give you in seconds. The idea of an app store, of a long tail of discrete set of apps you choose from, feels somehow wrong and outdated when LLM agents can improvise the app on the spot and just for you. So I had this experience recently where I needed to create a remote control that I could use on my television so I could copy and paste text into my TV. I was trying to set up a remote server on my TV. And all of the apps were buggy, filled with adverts, predatory, tried to take money. So I just span up a version using an LLM, stuck it on my telephone using a test version and was able to test it very quickly. So we can just build software. And generally, something like this, his cardio experiment tracker, it would make no sense for an app developer to make that piece of software, because the market for that is going to be so small, and the amount of time and effort and money they'll have to put into making that application just wouldn't make sense. However, if you have something that you need in your life specifically, you can now create software for that particular task. And this isn't you becoming a software developer. It's not you becoming a coder. It's literally, I've got a problem I need to solve, and it's going to take me a bunch of time. Could I just spin up some kind of application that's going to help me with this? And the answer is generally, yeah. You sit down, you talk to Claude Code, and you work out how to build it. Andrej continues, second, the industry has to reconfigure into a set of services of sensors and actuators with agent-native ergonomics. My Woodway treadmill is a sensor. It turns physical state into digital knowledge. It shouldn't maintain some human readable front end, and my LLM agent shouldn't have to reverse engineer it. It should be an API or command line interface easily usable by my agent. So basically, we shouldn't worry too much about human readable data. We need to have our devices, whether it's our treadmill, doesn't matter, whatever the device is, be able to connect via an API or command line interface directly with other computers. Don't worry so much about making it human readable, make it machine readable. I'm disappointed, and my timelines are slow with how slowly this progression is happening. 99% of products and services still don't have an AI native command line interface yet. Now that's interesting, because if we look at Peter Steinberger, most of the things that he's been building, this is the creator of OpenClaw, most of the thing he's been making is 40 plus projects are command line interfaces. GIF search for terminals, command line interface output, cap, snap, RTSP snapshots, clips, motion, command line interface, Spotify in your terminal. He has been focusing on this, creating little tools that AIs can use. Not creating tools for humans, but creating tools for artificial intelligences. Very clever. By doing this, he created an ecosystem for OpenClaw. When he released OpenClaw, his most recent and relatively successful project, he was able to plug all of these previous command line interfaces, all of these apps for AIs, directly into OpenClaw. So he had a ready-to-go marketplace. This might be what the future looks like. It's not apps that we use on our telephone that are made for humans. It is apps that we make for artificial intelligences. We call them command line interfaces, so this CLI here. Andrej continues, today I am impressed that this random thing took 1 hour. It would have been about 10 hours 2 years ago. But what excites me more is thinking through how this really should have been 1 minute tops. What has to be in place so that it would be 1 minute? So instead of taking him an hour to build, how can we make it so it only takes 1 minute? So that I could simply say, hey, can you help me track my cardio over the next 8 weeks? And after a very brief Q&A, the app would be up. The AI would already have a lot of personal context, and it would gather the extra needed data. It would reference and search related skill libraries and maintain all my little apps and automations. So this is the direction we're heading in. TLDR, the App Store of a set of discrete apps that you can choose from is an increasingly outdated concept all by itself. The future are services of AI native sensors and actuators orchestrated via LLM glue into highly custom ephemeral apps. It's just not there yet. The idea of an app store, the idea of pieces of software doesn't really make sense. Instead, we're moving towards a future where we will just have an AI, basically a central AI that knows all about us. It becomes our agent, a bit like what OpenClaw is pushing towards, but we're not quite there yet. We can have do tasks for us just by saying, hey, I want to do an experiment on my resting heart rate. I've got this treadmill and I want to measure over 8 weeks. How can we do that? And the agent will be able to interface with the treadmill automatically. It'll be able to do all the workings out that it needs to, set up an application for you and say, boom, here you go. It's done. That's the future that we're talking about here, where the AI works out how to solve that problem for you and goes and solves that problem. But to do that, we need everything. We need all our pieces of software to be able to talk to artificial intelligence, not by us going and scraping the website or having to hook up through an API, which maybe isn't maintained, isn't useful. Instead, everything should just be able to talk to everything in the back end, and it doesn't really need a graphical user interface. It doesn't need to be human readable. It's just going to be different applications talking to each other in the back end. That's the future that he's talking about here. And I saw the top criticism is, come on, you think your grandma wants to make her own apps, much less maintain it. Everyone neglects the mental energy to even think of what it is exactly you need. The entire principle of apps relies on some faith that designers and the collective feedback of their users can come up with a workflow or design paradigm better than what you, an individual, can come up with. That's true in 99% of cases. I'd be floored if even 1% of global users want bespoke applications for Uber-specific needs. Not saying it's useless, but it's so far away from what average users want. I generally agree with this, but it also relies on our agents not getting a lot better. Andrej says here, grandma shouldn't have to know, her LLM agent should. So that we'll get to a point where our agent can work out what we need, and it will be able to build that for us without us necessarily even having to ask it to. That's potentially the future from here. But generally, I would agree with this. And this comes back to what we just talked about with the Pomelli. Pomelli adding Photoshoot, the ability to create product shots directly inside of Google. And this guy saying, hey, you've just killed 100,000 AI startups who were creating product shot applications. Lots of startups will be safe for now because people don't necessarily know what they want. People don't necessarily know what apps they want, let alone know how to make them or how to instruct an AI to make them. So there will be a period of safety, 5 years, 10 years maybe, where coming up with the idea, implementing the idea, refining the idea, making it work properly, distributing and marketing that idea will still be valuable. I think we're a little way off what Andrej's envisioning, but I don't think he's wrong. I think we will be moving in that direction. It might take a couple of years, but there's no use predicting timelines anymore because everything is up in the air. We're just at 1 hour. So I'm going to finish up having a look at questions. You should venture into the social care sector. Huge audience and demand. I don't know anything about it. Or do you mean the parenting coach? Still don't know why no one has an eye on letter AI. Have you checked it out? Never heard of it. What do you think about the new MCP by Google? Very nice standard. I don't use MCPs that much. I use Skills over MCPs generally. So I haven't tried the Google Web MCP yet. Or I might be lying. I might have used it. My Claude Code might have used it and I haven't been fully aware of it because sometimes it will just work things out and I'll be like, yep, cool, sounds good. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. The recording and the newsletter of what we've been discussing today will be available. So if you check out the newsletter, it will have a summary of everything. So I've been primarily talking about Gemini 3.1, which is a good model, but I do not think having a good model is enough anymore. It depends on your harnesses. And Google don't yet have the good harnesses. That said, I talked about why I'm still bullish on Google. They have an amazing ecosystem, and I think they're probably going to take the AI race. They're doing some great work. But without that harness, we can't get the AI to do the work for us. We can only talk to the AI, which is in 2026 no longer enough. We talked about the Goodwill that Anthropic have been burning by stomping on solo developers like Peter Steinberger. And now we've just heard sending threatening letters to companies like I've lost it. Open Code. It was Open Code. So Open Code have been sent a cease and desist, apparently. Wait, is that right? Yes, they sent a legal notice. I don't know the full details, so don't quote me on that. And then we talked about Andrej Karpathy and the future of software. Remember, this is the guy who wrote Software 2.0 several years ago, so he does know what he's talking about. If you have not read that, if you go to aiwithkyle.com and then the AI canon, this is the most important papers in artificial intelligence. And the first one right there is Software 2.0 by Mr. Andrej Karpathy. So you can see the original article, which was quite important. It's still very important, so I highly recommend you look at that. So that is on aiwithkyle.com. At the top, there is something called the AI canon. This is seminal papers and resources to help you learn in depth what's going on. Have a look at that. Also, multiple courses, all for free. The catalog has over 100 playbooks. The AI news gets put on here every single day, and other resources you can join by clicking on join the community. You will also join our private community inside of Circle, plus get the newsletter every single day. One more thing, I'm giving a couple of webinars. I'll show you the best way to get it. I'm going to be talking about how you can give workshops to businesses and get paid really well. A lot of businesses are wondering, how do we use AI safely? How do we make sure it doesn't hallucinate? My staff are already using it, but I don't know if they know what they're doing. A lot of companies are willing to pay good money for people who know more about artificial intelligence in that particular sector to come and talk to them about how they should be using artificial intelligence. So I charge about £2,000 per hour to give a workshop, nearly $3,000. I've put together a free training here If you go to AI with Kyle and then courses and then the AI workshop masterclass, there's a 20-minute long video and a 5-part course and a couple of interactive tools you can use. So that's all available for free. But also on the 24th of February and the 26th of February, I'm going to be giving some webinars talking about this. These are live webinars. You can come and ask questions. I'll be walking you through how you can start to give workshops, how you find clients, and there's going to be free webinars. So that's on Tuesday, 24th of February, Thursday, the 26th of February, and then the next Tuesday and Thursday as well, 3rd and 5th of March. Make sure you come along to those. That's available for free on the website aiwithkyle.com. Then courses, scroll down a little bit, AI Workshop Masterclass, that has the free stuff plus the ability to sign up for a webinar. So hopefully I'll see a few of you on the webinar, and that's live. I don't pre-record them and I don't use AI. They're not good enough yet. Thank you guys.